Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. Respected brothers and sisters, welcome to your fiqh lessons regularly streamed on Thursdays from here in Darul Ummah. And normally we're covering the fiqh of marriage, and we've reached up to the lesson number 12, and we've had a few weeks that we gave a miss, and because of a few different issues, partially because I was a bit unwell. But alhamdulillah, we want to continue, inshallah, with this series. And today, instead of continuing with the fiqh of marriage, I will take a pause there for today, and inshallah talk about the fiqh of Ramadan, the fiqh of fasting, because this is very timely, pertinent, and I think it will be of benefit to, inshallah, to all of us. So this is again from the same kitab, Maraq al-Sa'adat, that we studied a long time ago, في علم التوحيد والعبادات, which is Ascent to Felicity by Imam Abu al-Ikhlas al-Shurumbulali, and we're covering the chapter of fasting, as-sawm, and we'll try to inshallah cover it in one lesson, hopefully, without going into too much detail, but inshallah covering the rules and regulations that you will want to know and it will be important for you to know. The legal definition of fasting is to withhold from eating, drinking and intercourse during the daylight hours. That's the legal definition of it, to not eat and drink and to avoid marital relations during the daylight hours. And that refers to, of course, the moment of as-subh as-sadiq up until sunset. Daylight hours here referring to the beginning of Fajr time up until the end of the day, which is at Maghrib. There is some ikhtilaf, especially in the UK, as to when does the fasting begin. Whether it's 18 degrees or 17 degrees or 15 degrees, and there's a bit of a difference among the fuqaha and the ulama in UK about this. And what it's all talking about is that when does Subh al-Sadiq begin? Subh al-Sadiq means true dawn. That's when Fajr begins. When does Fajr actually begin? Is it when the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon, or is it 17 or 16 or 15 and so on? And fuqaha would say that the safest option is the 18 degrees opinion. But I think, and what a lot of masajid do and what a lot of scholars do, is that they go by what's the times given by unified ulama timetable and other timetables as such. And so generally I would say there is no harm in following your local masjid timetable as to when the fasting begins, when Subh al-Sadiq is. Subh al-Sadiq means the true dawn, and that's when Fajr begins normally, and in Ramadan that's when your fasting also begins. There is something before that called as-Subh al-Kadhib, the untrue dawn, and that's different, and that's a different kind of light, but that's not relevant to us, and so we shouldn't worry too much about it. It is important that you stop eating and drinking, even if the food is in your mouth, that you should not consume it, you should not complete eating it when the time of the fasting has begun. Right? That's what the legal definition of fasting is, with an intention. So the legal definition and the ta'rif of as-sawm is withholding and staying away from eating and drinking and intercourse during the daylight hours with an intention of fasting performed by one. So with an intention, niyyah has to be there, of fasting performed by one capable and required to do so. One who is physically mentally able to, and is required, shar'an, he is mutalab, he is mukallaf to do so. The fasting has 7 types. Okay, there are the fasts which are obligatory, fard, mandatory, which are wajib, sunnah fasts, recommended fast, which is mustahab, voluntary, which is nafil, and makruh tahriman and makruh tanzihi as well. So fasting is of different levels. One which is absolutely fard, then wajib, you can have wajib fasts, you can have sunnah fasts, you can have mandoob and recommended fasts, and you can have nafil fasts, and you can have makruh fasts, and you can also have makruh tanzihan or tanzihi, the lesser or the lightly disliked fast. So what are they? What is the obligatory fard? The obligatory fard fasting, the fasting which is fard and obligatory upon every single person who is physically and mentally and is able to do so, is mukallaf, is mutalab shar'an azin. They are of age of aqil, of baligh, they have reached the age of maturity, baligh as in the Islamic level of maturity, reach puberty, and they are intellectually present and stable, they are Muslim, for them they are required, and also that they are not traveling, they are in hadar and not in safar, even though in safar it is preferred that one fasts, even though it may be allowed. Inshallah, we'll come to that later on anyway. So the obligatory and fard fast is the one of Ramadan during the month is called, so when you're keeping them in the month of Ramadan, it's called ada. Anything that you do in its correct time is called ada. Doing something outside of its time is called qada. Okay, so ada and qada, fasts of Ramadan, fasting of Ramadan, whether you're doing it in the month or outside of it, is considered to be a fard type of fasting. Fasts of expiation, the kafara fast. So say for example, if someone didn't fast one fast on when they're supposed to, they missed it intentionally out of eating, because of eating or drinking or any other reason, without a valid excuse they broke the fast, then they have to do something called a kafara, an expiation. And this expiation is 60 consecutive fasts, shahraini mutatabi'ain, 60 consecutive fasts. So that kafara, for the one who has to give the kafara or keep the kafara fasts, is also considered to be a fard type of fasts. And from the types of fara'id or fard fast are also the ones you vowed for, the ones of nadar, and so on. We have the lesser, or the one that goes below that, is the mandatory and the wajib fast, okay, which is considered to be, in the Hanafi school of law, the mandatory and wajib fasts are the fasts that you broke, and they were actually, first you're keeping them as nafil, but you broke them because you wanted to, because you had guests, because you were trying to be hospitable to someone, and etc. The nafil fast, when you make the intention, is nafil. But when you've started it, you've now started a contract with your Creator, and you have sort of made a promise to Allah that once you've made the intention that I'm going to fast the whole day. Now if you go and break that, according to the Hanafi fuqaha, you have to make that fast up. Even though it's nafil originally, but once you've made that intention and gone into it, then it is now important that you complete it, and if you do not complete it, then you should make up for it. It is wajib for you to make up for it. We have the sunnah fast, which are, for example, the blessed days of Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, along with the 9th. That's a sunnah fast. We have the recommended mandub fast, which is the fasting of the 3 days, the ayyamul bid of each month, and Monday, and the fasting of Mondays and Thursdays, okay, as well as the 6 days of Shawwal, and so on. These are fasts considered to be the mandub fasts. Then we have the fifth category, which is the nafil fast, which are any other day in which a person considers or makes the intention of any day that I want to fast today on Wednesday because I want to for the sake of Allah, then this is a nafil type of fasting. Okay, so fasting can be fard, wajib, sunnah, mandub, and nafil. Okay, then there is of course the makruh tahriman fasting, which is the fasting of ayyam al-tashriq and ayyam yawmain of Eid, and there's a separate category of that. But primarily it is important to know the first four: the fard, the wajib, the sunnah, and the mandub, which is also mustahab. Right, we've talked about that now. Let's come to the next section, the intention of fasting. We've said before that fasting has to be done with a niyyah. Okay, so what's all of this about? It says here, all types of fasts require an intention. Any fast that you keep, they need a niyyah. Okay, the following types of fasts require an intention and specification of the type of the fast. So it's not enough for you to just say, I'm going to fast tomorrow. You've got to also specify. So now, they're not all the same. There are different categories. The following type, the ones that we're about to mention now, okay, they are fasts which require an intention and the specification of the type of the fast, as well as that the intention be made the previous night before Fajr. So there are these fasts that we're about to mention, right? You've got to make the intention, you've got to specify what type, and you've got to make the intention before Fajr. What are these fasts? We're talking about fasts which are of qada of Ramadan. If, say for example, for a sister, she had a valid excuse, or for any reason someone did not fast in Ramadan because they were traveling or because they were unwell, when you now come outside of Ramadan and want to keep those fasts, okay, then when you are making qada of Ramadan, then when you make the intention for that fast, you've got to do it before Fajr. You've got to say that this is for Ramadan and this is the fard fast of Ramadan that I miss. You've got to make that very clear intention. Okay. Also for any voluntary fast, any nafil fast, if you broke them in the middle of the day and if you wanted to make up for them as qada, then you would also have to make the intention before Fajr and you'd have to specify exactly what kind of fasting you're keeping. Also the fasting of kafara. If you have to keep a fast out of kafara because of a expiation, right, then that also needs to be specified with intention before Fajr, and you have to specify the time, the type of the fast you're keeping as well, and so on. The following types of fast require, now that was one section. The ones we just mentioned now, they require that you make the intention before Fajr, that you specify the type, okay, and that you are going to fast and the type of the fast you specify before Fajr. The next section are fasts which don't require specification of the type, and you don't necessarily, okay, have to make the intention the night before Fajr. It's different from the first category, okay. Rather, the intention can be made any time from the previous night up until al-dhahwa al-kubra, which is in the footnote. It says dhahwa kubra is determined. Okay, so this basically the sort of the time between. Well, I'll read the footnote to you. Dhahwa kubra is determined by dividing the time between the entrance of Fajr and that of Maghrib by half. If the intention of fasting the entire day is performed before dhahwa kubra, the above three types of fasts are valid. Otherwise, they are not. So basically, you must make your fast intention before Zawwal or before Mudday or before Dhahwa Kubra. Okay, so these are the following ones. Okay, as long as you've made your niyyah before Dhahwa Kubra, as in before sort of midday, right, then your fast will be valid. What are these fasts? First of all, Ramadan. In the month of Ramadan, when you're fasting your fast, you should try to make the intention the night before. You don't have to pronounce it with your words, but you have to make the intention in your heart and in your mind that I'm going to fast. But if you forgot or if you did not make the fast in the night or the intention in the night, then you can do so even after Fajr up until Dhahwa Kubra, which is just before Zuhur time. Okay? And also the same for voluntary fast. So a nafil fast as well, just like Ramadan, the Ramadan niyyah, you should make it the night before. But if you did not, you can still make the intention at the beginning of the day. Same thing with the voluntary and nafil fasts. If you're keeping a nafil fast, then you should make the intention the night before. But if you didn't, it's not a problem. You can make the intention even on the day, as long as it is before half of the day. Okay? So these are some of the types of fasts and the intention of fasting. Okay? Some fastings, they require that the intention has to be made the night before. While others, it's okay even if you didn't do it the night before and you done it on the morning of the fast is also permitted. And we've mentioned that now. If you haven't caught it, you can rewind it afterwards, inshallah. Okay, now the next question. How does Ramadan begin? What's the way of finding out if Ramadan has begun or not? The crescent moon, the hilal. The beginning of the month of Ramadan is established either by sighting of the crescent moon or by completion of 30 days of Sha'ban. So if one or if a community, if a country does not sight the moon of Ramadan, okay, the month of Ramadan, then we have to complete Sha'ban as 30 days, and then automatically the day after the 30th of Sha'ban is automatically the first of Ramadan. Okay, I think that's clear now. Just that. One may so now that's number one. Number two, what about we're not sure is it Ramadan today or not? Okay, if there's unsurety as to if it's Ramadan on that day or not, then you should not fast on that day. Okay, that's the rule. Move on. I can't take too much detail because again we're not going to finish the topic otherwise. For the beginning of Ramadan, now what if there's obstruction in the sky? If there is obstruction in the sky, such as cloudiness or fog, then the sighting of one upright person is sufficient. So now even if there's fog in the sky, you can't see the moon of Ramadan, but one person comes and says, hey, I saw the moon, then that person's testification and that witness will be sufficient to establish the beginning of Ramadan. Okay? If there is, however, no obstruction, there's no cloud, there's no fog in the sky, then we can't suffice with just one person saying, I saw the moon. We need more than one person to see the moon, because everyone should have been able to see it. There's no fog in the sky. And so therefore more people should have seen it naturally. Okay? But if there was fog, then only one person's justification will be sufficient. Okay. Now let's come to, we've understood what is fasting. We've understood the types of fasting. We've understood the intention of fasting. We've understood how fasting begins and the month of Ramadan begins. Now let's talk about what are the things which will break your fasting. And this is very important, because especially this year with vaccination and stuff. The things that will break your fasts are not all the same. Some things will break your fast and you will have to do kafara as well. Okay? So what he's saying here is actions of one who is fasting are divided into four categories. Number one, those that require a qada as well as kafara. Makeup as well as expiation. That's category number one. Category number two, those that require a makeup without expiation. They require qada but no kafara. Number three, those that require nothing. No qada, no kafara. And those that require nothing yet are this. These are talking about actions, things you can do while you're fasting, right? Some of these things can actually break your fast and make you do kafara as well. While others may require that you make qada but no kafara. What are those? We'll explain, we'll understand inshallah. The first thing, number one, the following actions are those that require that you do qada. If you do these things in Ramadan or while you're supposed to be fasting, then you will have to do qada and you have to give kafara as well. What are they? If a person eats or drinks something of nutritional value, which means something that you normally eat, any food or drink that is normally eaten, okay, or something of a medical purpose, consumes it through the mouth, or inshallah we'll talk about that in a moment, or has marital relations, as in has intercourse, in any of the two passages, okay, on purpose, then he or she must make up the fast as well as give kafara. Okay, and the kafara, what is the kafara? What is the expiation? So you got to make up the qada. You've understood what qada means. But what's the kafara? Kafara, first thing is to free a slave, but of course that's not applicable now. Then the second kafara which is applicable now is to fast 2 consecutive months, the shahraini mutatabi'ain. Now if someone is not able to fast the 60 days because of a profound and an established medical reason, because a doctor has told them you cannot fast for 2 consecutive months, then the next level of kafara is that they must feed 60 poor people, a half of a sa' of wheat, which is about 2.2 kgs of wheat. They must give that to 60 poor people, okay, or its equivalent value in money. But that would be very rarely applicable. Most of the time, if someone has intentionally broken a fast, either by eating or drinking something of nutritional value or medical value, or because of intercourse, then they have to do qada and give kafara. Notice here, kafara is the expiation. You still have to make the qada. After the 60 fasts, a person still, or before the 60 fasts, a person still has to make up for the fast that they have missed. If, however, one does not have one of the above, as in he cannot, if, however, he does one of the above, namely, so let me say that again. If, however, a person does one of the above, i.e. he eats or drinks or has intercourse out of forgetfulness, out of nisyan, then there is no qada, the fast carries on, and there is no kafara as well. So what that means is, the Prophet ﷺ has told us that رُفِعَ الْقَلَمْ عَنْ ثَلَاثٍ, that the pen and the responsibility has been taken out of a certain categories of people. A young person until they become baligh, a sleeping person until they have woken up, and a unaware person until they become aware. If someone out of forgetfulness eats or drinks or even has intercourse in Ramadan out of forgetfulness. What kind of forgetfulness? He was completely unaware what he's doing. He's completely out of his ate or drink. That is forgiven. Not forgetfulness that talks about, oh, I didn't know. Not that kind of forgetfulness. Not forgetting the rules, not forgetfulness of the rules, but forgetfulness of awareness. He or she was fully unaware. Okay. So we've now spoken about, okay, the first category. If you miss a fast of Ramadan, then you have to make up for it and give kafara. So it's two things. The next category is things which require that you have to do qada, but there's no kafara. What are they? Using of a suppository. What is that? Okay, this is a type of medication that you use through the private parts. If you don't know what it means, you can look up what suppository is, the word, and you'll understand. Okay? Using of a suppository while you're fasting will break your fast, but you don't have to give kafara. You just have to do qada. Number one. Number two, if someone eats something like dust or dirt, which is customarily not eaten, something that doesn't have any nutritional value, okay, eating something which is not normally eaten, like dirt or rubbish, then in that case a person would have to do qada of the fast, but not kafara. Eating, however, food or drink of nutritional value or medical value, then you have to do qada and kafara. Okay, suppose now that's number two. Number three, if you're rinsing your mouth or you're gargling your mouth, right? If you then swallow that water accidentally, not forgetfully, but accidentally while you're rolling it in your mouth, then that would require a qada. It will require a qada, but not a kafara. Same thing of if someone is forced to break a fast. If you're forced to break a fast because of someone is oppressing you, someone is forcing you, you're in prison, or whatever reason you're being forced and coerced into not fasting, then for you there's no kafara. You just have to make up for that fast later on whenever it is possible for you, inshallah. Okay? And those are some of the reasons why you would have to do qada, and just qada, but no kafara will be applied to that person's, or to you. So the first thing was you have to do qada and kafara, and we've explained what that is. That's basically eating and drinking intentionally. We've explained all of that now. The next one was you'd have to qada, but there is no kafara. First one is with kafara. Number three, if you do these actions, then you are, there is nothing. There's nothing applicable. It's completely fine for you to do it. And it's not disliked as well. Like what? Hijama. Doing hijama while you're fasting is completely fine. It doesn't do anything as long as it's not too much and it does not weaken the person. Using miswak. It's not disliked, rather it's a sunnah to use a miswak while you're fasting. That is different from toothpaste, which you should not use while you're fasting. Rinsing the mouth or nose. Rinsing the mouth or nose is also permitted, and there's nothing wrong with that while you're fasting. Placing a wet garment on one's body, or taking a bath, or anything else of that type, or having a shower, there's nothing wrong with that while you're fasting. It's not disliked or anything. Okay? We'll say here, taking a vaccination, okay, because it's going in through the skin and not through the mouth and nose, okay, then this is not going to break your fast. And so if you need to take a vaccine, if you need to take any eye drops and so on, then you can do so. It's not going to break your fast, inshallah. But nasal drops and sprays, asthma sprays and etc., those things will break your fast because they're going in through your oral cavity. So anything that goes into your body from any of the openings, whether it be your nose, whether it be your mouth, whether it be the private parts, then those things actually do break your fast. Okay? As for things which go into your body through the skin, injection and etc., or even by absorption of the skin, then these things, they don't actually break your fast. The next list is things which they don't require anything. You don't have to do qada, but you shouldn't. It's better to avoid. It's disliked. Okay? For example, tasting food or kissing. Kissing on skin, not on the mouth. Mouth is not allowed anyway. Kissing on the mouth is not allowed. Of course, we're talking about between married people. Kissing on the mouth is not permitted, but kissing on the skin or any other part of the body, which can lead to other actions, which can lead to ejaculation or the like, right? That would be considered to be disliked if it is that kind of kissing. Now, those are some of the. So what do we just talk about now? We said that things that break your fast, they're not all the same. Some of them, they break your fast and you have to do kafara. And others, they just break your fast and you have to make up for it, but there's no kafara. Number 3 was things which actually don't do anything. They don't have any effect on your fasting. And number 3 was things you're allowed to do, but it's disliked. You shouldn't do it. And we've just spoken about all of these things now. Okay. The following things are considered to be mustahab while you're fasting. It is liked and you should try to do. What are they? Having the suhoor. Some people think, alhamdulillah, I can deal with it, so I'm not going to have the suhoor. But they don't realize that suhoor is actually a mustahab. It's a sunnah thing, and we should try to make sure we have suhoor. And it is from the instruction of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also from the sunnah and the mustahabbat is that we should have the suhoor just before the end of its time, as in not so early. To delay the suhoor before subh as-sadiq, to have it on time but not excessively early, is also from the sunnah. To break one's fast quickly and as soon as possible is also from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and is therefore liked and mustahab for one to do. Okay, so now we talked about things which break your fast. Then we talked about things which can damage your fast. Now we spoke about things which are liked for you to do while you're fasting, which are a part of the fasting. Right? Now we're going to talk about things which require a person. Okay, now we're going to talk about people who are exempt from fasting. Okay, normally a person who is baligh, age of baligh, or age of puberty, and aqil and mentally stable, and is hadir, is in his hometown, and is considered to be mukallaf. You should fast. Okay, and even if you're traveling, it's preferred for you to fast. But if you want, you're allowed to make it up on other days, right? So that's the people that are supposed to be fasting. Men and women the same, healthy and able to, medically able to. Who are the people that don't have to fast? Who are the exempted people? Who are the people who have an exemption from fasting? Number 1, a sick person who fears that illness will worsen. 509 says, as in the footnote of that says, this also includes a sick person who fears prolongation of his illness, or even a healthy person who fears becoming ill due to fasting. In either case, the fear, of course, must be genuine. If someone is unwell and they think that by fasting, and they've been advised by a medical expert that by fasting your illness will worsen, then that person is exempt from fasting for now. They can fast later on. Okay? Number 2, a pregnant woman or a nursing woman, with the condition for each that she have a legitimate fear for the baby or for herself. If a pregnant woman or a nursing woman, as in she's breastfeeding, then they are allowed to break their fast if they are worried that this will affect the well-being of herself or the baby. Okay. Number 4, one who undergoes severe thirst from which he fears death. If someone is so thirsty that they think they're literally going to pass away, they're allowed to break their fast, and they would have to just make it up later on without no kafara. Or a traveler. If someone is traveling, as in the Shar'i traveler, someone is a musafir according to the Shar'i terms, namely someone who is traveling for 50 miles or more from his hometown, okay, then that person is considered to be a musafir as long as the travel is for 14 days or less. Then that person is a musafir. Then that person is allowed to break their fast in Ramadan, but they have to make up for it afterwards. Even then, it is still preferred that they fast in Ramadan instead of breaking it. These are some of the people that are exempt from fasting. If a person breaks their fast due to a valid excuse, okay, if a person breaks their fast because of any of the reasons explained above, then, and thereafter that person passes away without having the chance to make them up. Okay, let me give you an example. Someone was traveling in Ramadan for 10 days. After Ramadan, they fell ill. And after that illness, they passed away. They never had enough time to make up those 10 days of fasting. For that person, he will not be sinful, and there is no need also to give fidya on their behalf. There is no need to give fidya on their behalf. Fidya is only given, we'll explain why, when it's given and how it's given. Okay? If one person breaks a fast because of a valid excuse, because they were nursing, because they were pregnant, because they were unwell, because they were traveling, and so on, and didn't have the correct amount of time to be able to do qada for that, okay, then there is no need to make up for that by making a fidya payment. However, okay, next section. When making up a fast in general, one does not have to perform them consecutively. So this is basically just a side note that when you're making up your fasting of Ramadan, for example, you missed 5 days or 6 days or 7 days, right? You're doing qada. Then it's better to do it as soon as possible. But if someone wants to take a gap in between, it is also permissible. Now we're talking about the fidya payment. What is fidya? Fidya is an amount of money which is given for a very old person who is unable to fast. Okay? Why unable to fast? What does that mean? That with the condition that his inability, that this person is so unwell or so ill or so old in age that we don't have any hope that the person will be able to get better and keep those fasts. Someone is so unwell or of old in age that there is no hope that they will get better and be able to keep those Ramadan fasts that they're missing. For that person, we should give fidya. Okay? If someone has hope that inshallah I will get better next year, or I'll get better in a few months, and I will keep my fast, then there's no fidya given for that person. That person waits, and when they get better, they must make up the qada of those fasts that they actually missed. Fidya is only given for the person who doesn't have any hope to be able to make up for those fasts that they've actually missed. Next question. We've understood what fidya is. We've understood who should give it. Now, what's the amount? The fidya amount is half a sa' of wheat, which is 2.2 kgs of wheat, or its equivalent monetary value for each day. You can do the maths in any country or place you are, or wherever that is. Okay? The fidya payment is, of course, mandatory and it's wajib. Okay, next question, next part. A person performing a voluntary fast may break it. A person, that's a side note again. If you're doing a nafil fast, you're allowed to break it. Okay? Even without an excuse, because, for example, your friends came over, whatever, but you should make up for it later on. It is wajib for you to make up for it afterwards. Even if it's a nafil fast, even though it was nafil first, but when you made the intention and went into the action, then exited, then cancelled, then broke your intention, then that's fine, you're not sinful, but you should make up for that fast. Okay? And that's it. And then we'll talk about i'tikaf afterwards. That's a small introduction into the fiqh of fasting. I hope it made some sense. And inshallah we'll speak about it again tomorrow in our khutbah. And taqabbal Allah minna wa minkum. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the masjid. May Allah accept from all of us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.